Welcome to Sister Talk Real Talk, a show where real women discuss real issues. My name is Monique, and I have the honor and the pleasure of being your host every week. On this show, I provide women with information, insights, and perspectives that I hope will enlighten, challenge, and encourage you to live your best life and to walk in your purpose. Stay tuned. It's going to be a great show. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Sister Talk Real Talk. Again, my name is Monique, and I am so glad that you have taken time out of your busy day to join me. Well, whether you're sitting back and relaxing on your couch, in your chair, or if you're listening to me during your commute or while you're working, I just want to say thanks for taking the time to join us. So, we heard a lot of feedback. I heard a lot of feedback from our last couple of episodes. If you missed episodes 7 and 8, we talked about can men and women have friends of the opposite sex when you're in a committed relationship. And boy, did we hear from you. If you didn't hear the end of the last episode, we talked about looking at potential threats to a relationship. And I had a special guest with me on those previous 2 episodes. And he is actually here to join me again today. And I want to say thank you to him being in the studio today. It's taken a little bit of time for us to coordinate schedules, which is why this third one has taken a little bit. But I think you guys are really going to enjoy the topic. The way we ended the last one was with a question. And it was, can you negotiate a threat? And what we meant by threat is whether it's your boyfriend, girlfriend, husband and wife, whether you're in a committed relationship, if there's something or someone that maybe one of the people in the relationship, not both, sees as a potential threat to the relationship, can you negotiate around that? And my guest, his name is JC, has given some insight, and his response was, you can't negotiate a threat. All threats must be eliminated. We heard from you and you said, we want to hear what that means. We want you to talk about it. So I'm really happy to say that I'm welcoming JC back with us again today. We're continuing the conversation. Can men and women have opposite sex friends when they're in a committed relationship? We talked in episode 7 about the 5 signs to be able to evaluate whether or not your opposite sex friendship could be a potential threat to your relationship. If you want to know what those 5 are, I'm not going to take up today's time to give those to you, but check out episode 7. We talk about them. I actually recap them again in episode 8. This is episode 9, and we're going to talk about, the topic is you cannot or you can't negotiate a threat. I thought that was a great way to end our last conversation. Apparently, so did all of you, because we heard back, and I heard back from you, and you wanted us to talk a little bit more about that. Episode 8 was great because we talked about having that tough conversation around not feeling comfortable about those opposite sex friendships that your partner may have, and how to talk about it. Particularly, we talked about it from a woman's point of view of bringing it to a man. I don't know if we talked about it from a man's point of view of bringing it to a woman, which we may probably delve into a little bit here today with my guest, JC, because we're going to talk about threats to a relationship. So I'd like to say, JC, welcome. Thank you again for coming back into the studio, for taking time out of your busy schedule to share some insight and wisdom with our listeners. If nothing else, you and I think, have stirred up some pretty deep conversations. I hear that they have been conversations with couples and friends, people all around the world, couples with, their spouses or, their partners in one part of the world traveling there in another, and they're listening to the podcast together and then having these in-depth conversations. I understand it's happened in beauty shops and barber shops and, around living rooms and coffee tables and kitchen tables and in cars and all of this other stuff. So hopefully, we will be able to bring some additional insight today. So thank you and welcome to Sister Talk Real Talk again.
Well, thank you for having me. So basically, yeah, where we left off, it was pretty personal for some people that I know that the feedback was pretty intense. But hopefully, this is just one man's opinion. I don't represent all men. This is just like from a personal standpoint of what I would say the common man. So for women who don't have a clue or an idea or how to approach their significant others, how can a woman approach a man with this type of issue or conversation without causing an argument or even the end of their relationship? What I'm giving for is just one man's opinion, but I will say after the previous conversations we've had, the feedback, there were quite a few say fellow men who did agree with say 90% of what my opinion was.
Which is great. And then, we had women having conversations around the opinions. And I think what JC is trying to say is, he's not speaking for all men, but there is, kind of a base commonality thread of what he's saying, kind of just a general male's perspective. And for my listeners, which are male and female, the idea around having these conversations is really to give some insight and more depth to the topics, and then for you guys to go back and have your own conversations. Maybe you haven't thought about it. Maybe it's something that you're already dealing with and struggling with. You didn't know how to approach it. Maybe you completely and totally disagree. That's great. Let me know that too, because we want to hear the feedback. We know that there are different situations and differing opinions, but this gives you something to kind of think about, talk about, and sometimes it's a launching ground for a launching pad for people to have conversations that otherwise may be pretty difficult, or they may have some difficulty approaching. Whether you agree with the opinions or not, it may give you some insight into at least how to approach things. So we talk about threats. What are some of the type of threats that are that can come against a relationship? One, we talked about opposite sex friends, and I think we'll dive into that a little bit deeper. But what are some other potential threats?
Yeah, well, we're going to end up rehashing what we talked about as far as potential threats, because it's always the friend, that takes advantage of the friendship. There's the one that's an actual threat who has hidden motives. So there's different type of threats.
But outside of friends is threats, right? Outside of just that opposite sex friendship, what are some other types of threats that could negatively impact a relationship?
Well, there's always the relation threat, which is somebody else trying to, end your relationship because they want a piece of what you have. For women, it's that coworker or that girl at the grocery store that's looking at your man too long. And for men, it's the work husband, you know.
Hmm.
So those were jobs. You know what I'm talking about.
Or and for women, it could be the work wife.
The work wife, the work husband.
Husband can be
You
those
know.
challenges.
So,
Yes.
so, I mean, I think that from a man's point of view, can you negotiate a threat? You see, that's a real touchy subject because when you talk about negotiating a threat, you're talking about trying to keep a certain person in your new life who was from your old life.
Hmm.
Now this is real, brothers. I gotta, I'm throwing in the man card here on this. I'm letting them know we don't feel comfortable at all when we have to get rid of any female friends that we had before we got into a relationship. Of course, we don't feel comfortable. Maybe we may have had our own uh, hidden motives. You know, we don't want to admit it, but sometimes we have that break glass in case of emergency friend. We've never ever crossed that boundary, but we've had a thought like, in a rough time, drunk night, I may have to give her a call, for a little midnight therapy. We've had that thought in the back of our head, like, if it ever came down to it, would I smash that? And 9 times out of 10, any red blood American male would say, yeah, he would smash that, depending on if she appealed to him physically, because we're men. We're visually stimulated. But then again, there's also a boundary that some of us men, and I say some of us men, will not cross that friendship boundary. So, like I said, some threats we may try to negotiate because we're not going to go across that boundary with that particular female. And others we may negotiate because we may not feel comfortable in our own relationship to want to give up that break glass in case of emergency card. We know we may have to play that card when our ladies act up and we got to go back to our place all upset because of a verbal dispute. And we'd be like, you know what? I'm gonna have a couple of drinks, call a couple, call a squad over. You know what I'm saying? Just 'cause I don't feel like being alone. And one of the female members of the squad may stick around a little longer, have a couple more drinks. We don't want to play that. We don't want to get rid of that card. We want to keep that card when we have to
You
play
mean
it.
so you're saying that this person you're still in a relationship, but the break glass in case of emergency can be in case of breakup or in the midst of a rough time.
Yes, and I'm being totally honest. I always tell my friends, be honest with yourself. Before you can be honest with anybody, you got to be honest with yourself. So
Now, JC, in case they missed it, which I'm sure they didn't, I'm sure both men and women's ears perked up at this point. Are you saying that most men or some men have a break glass in case of emergency female?
I'm gonna say, uh, any heterosexual male, we have that break glass. Every man has
All
that.
all
I
do?
would say just about all do because that break glass in case of emergency female may not even know it that she's the one that if it ever
Now,
came
now,
down
now,
to
wait,
it.
wait, 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 wait. I know personally some men. So you're telling me that my male friends, ladies, I have a lot of brothers, and we have some really candid, kind of raw conversations. Are you saying that they've all just lied to me about this topic?
Yeah. Yeah, it's because they're not being honest with themselves.
So are you saying basically then all men have a probability of cheating?
No.
Because you said the break glass in case of
Break glass in
emergency
case of
free.
emergency is just that. It could be an
But
emergency.
emergencies because you had an argument with your girlfriend and that's an emergency and now your girlfriend. What about okay? Let me let me ask this. Does it matter if he's married versus a girlfriend or a long-term live-in relationship? Does that matter?
It depends on the nature of your relationship.
You're married.
And
He's married.
if the guy is married, then he does not have the break glass. Well, he probably does, but he's not ever going to play that card.
So, are you saying that from the perspective of a lot of men, even though when they're supposed to be in a monogamous committed relationship, let's say everything short of marriage, everything from boyfriend, girlfriend, exclusive, we're only with each other, I got you, you got me, to, you know, live in relationships, to fiancés, that they will still have that break glass in case of emergency person?
Well, I'm gonna say yeah. If you're married, you probably still have that, but you'll never reveal it, and you probably ended the relationship, but you know that you can always call her back. If you're not married, but you're in a committed relationship, men fantasize about women all day, whether it's their woman or it's another woman. If you're in a relationship and you're strong enough, then you fantasize about your woman all day, every day. We're men. What we do is we conquer. We have to conquer.
So, are
Whether
you saying you get bored?
no, we don't get bored. No, we conquer. We're conquerors. We're hunters. We're conquerors. So every day, a good man every day will find a new way to love his woman in a different way every day, which means he has to try to conquer her.
Hmm.
So
Okay, there's so many things right now. I know you ain't give me a lot of trouble with my relationship. Okay, so we're gonna hear about this. You know that, right? We are going to hear about this. Okay, so are you telling me that sometimes or even oftentimes, the response from the man that I don't know what you're talking about, the deflection, the anger, the unwillingness to let go of this female friend that he is protesting too much doesn't mean anything to him, could really be that us women and our intuition and us knowing women and picking up on the things where he thinks he's so slick but really isn't, that we're really picking up on the sense that this is a break glass in case of emergency woman. We may not know that's what it is, but there's something else there.
No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is
What are you
because
saying? What are you saying? What are you saying?
when women say, "I don't want you to," I don't like that girl. She can't be a part of this new relationship that I'm having with you. That particular female may not be the break glass in case of emergency girl.
Oh, there may be someone else that she doesn't even know about.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, come on. Really?
Yeah.
That he never lets her meet.
Right. Doesn't bring it up. We'll keep. That's a card.
She doesn't even know she exists.
That's a trump card that guys, if you have that break.
Is that like having the Joker in spades?
It's like the ace up your sleeve. You have an ace up your sleeve. And it's if most guys, if they have the confidence, they're fortunate enough to have it, they do. And this is something that most guys would take this to the grave. We would.
So wait a minute. Okay. So you're telling me that there could be some woman in this man's life that his woman, wife, girlfriend, partner, whatever, wifey, wife, doesn't even know exists.
Exactly. It's that.
And does he still communicate with her?
He doesn't have to. I mean, like I said, the break glass conversion girl is like, okay, so if upon desperate times, if I broke up with my girlfriend, if I caught her cheating with someone else,
if I get too annoyed, okay, let me ask this. What percentage of time do you think, from a man's perspective, that this woman knows she's that break glass in case of emergency woman?
It could be that she never will ever know. Because
and is the man assuming she's going to say yes? I mean, that's an assumption. If she doesn't know, and it's like, oh, I could hit that, I could smash that, I could whatever.
No, he's not assuming.
So he doesn't know.
He's not sure if she'll say yes, but she's the girl that he's willing to. If he has to cross the line, it would be with that one.
And so you're saying we as women
have no idea.
Have no idea.
Have no idea, and it's not something that a man will ever admit. He'll never bring this up because this is something that goes on within our heads. So you women have no clue what's going on. No clue that this is even a thought. I'm going to get in a lot of trouble because I just played a card right there.
Wow. Okay, JC. I have to pause. It's not very often where I'm so dumbfounded that I'm trying to figure out what to say because there are like 5 different things that I could say right now. Most of which I can't say on the air. So, you said in the last podcast, in our last episode, you cannot negotiate a threat. And I said, it sounds like for the United States of America, we have a stance as the United States that we do not negotiate with terrorists.
Right.
And you said, I asked, well, can you, and the reason you had that response was, I asked, well, can we say, well, we'll be fine with, this person in your life if, they respect the relationship or you don't talk to them as much. And you said no. And you said something key, which was because we as men are going to require you to completely eliminate that threat out of your lives. Mm-hmm. That guy that you see as a threat, mm-hmm. You're going to require us to have no contact with him. But it seems like it's a double standard.
This is what men have going on in their minds. Is that there's always that one girl, if that you would say, man, if I had to, if me and my girl broke up, if I caught her cheating, I know for a fact that there's that break glass in case of emergency. Like, this is an emergency. My relationship is over and I'm hurting. You know what? And the break glass in case of emergency girl could be a friend Or it could be somebody that he hasn't had the courage to speak to, but he's always in contact with. He just haven't admitted to himself that, you know what, she's the one, because the opportunity didn't arise yet.
So let me ask you something a little bit different. For me as a woman, it sounds extremely disconcerting.
It should.
It sounds frustrating. It sounds
should.
disconcerting because it sounds like for most men or for some men, man, you're gonna have to let me know on this. I really want to hear from you. But it sounds like from your perspective, getting down to the deep down and dirty of what goes on with men, is it even possible for a man to really give? I was going to say for a woman to capture a man's heart, but really, is it really possible for a man to truly give a woman he loves his whole heart? Or does he always keep some back in reserve?
No, it's true. A man will give his heart up completely. But it's so hard when, as a man, if you're hurt, if you've been hurt, if you've been done wrong by a woman, if you had a woman that actually cheat on you, I mean, it's a demoralizing blow to a man's character. You're a conqueror. You're supposed to conquer and dominate your woman mentally, physically, sexually, emotionally. But
and you think you have it, then all of a sudden, bam.
Yeah, it's like, wait a moment.
So what do you think that does? Let me flip the script. What do you think that does to women? Because I can tell you.
I'm thinking it does the same thing.
I can tell you that I know women. I can tell you personally. And I think, my listeners, I keep it real. I can tell you personally that I've been cheated on. And in a couple of previous relationships. And it's devastating to women because that sense of, it's a different sense. It's not the conquering. It's a sense of security.
Submitting to a man.
You've yielded your heart. You've given yourself not just physically to him, but when a woman truly loves a man and lets her guard down, there is an emotional and spiritual component to it as well. And to find out that he took it elsewhere, it is devastating. And you hear about those women, and I don't know if you've experienced them, or I'm sure you've heard about them, where you hear about women that seem like they've turned hard. Men can't. Yeah.
And that's when, as far as getting back to the subject of negotiating a threat,
right.
This could be a potential threat that you women are validated with, because some men, they're not honest with themselves, so they're not willing to let this person go who, if they have identified that friend, that person to be a friend that they know of, somebody they're in contact with.
Okay. Well, can you help my female listeners out here a little bit? I
think I've helped them out quite enough. I might get some threats.
I think what's going to happen is there are going to be some tough conversations. Help us out. Is there a way, or how can we assess a man and who he is? You should see the look on his face in the studio right now. This is great. Is there a way for us to be able to assess the type of man that we're dealing with, to figure out if he's that kind of man? Is there a way?
Here's the thing. Every man can be that man. There's no telltale signs. Okay? Well,
how could a woman ever really trust a man then? How do you know?
It's the character of the man. And it's how he's been treated in the past, mm-hmm. and how he's being treated in the present. But
that's the same thing with women.
Yes. This is why can you negotiate a threat? Because I'm pretty sure some women have that break glass in case of emergency guy. Got that Raheem out there, you know. You got that Mr. Joe with the pretty smile and the clean, the little nice clean white teeth, and hair's always nice and he smell always good, clean shaven. So yeah, and that's that one guy that you'd be like, oh girl, he could get it. Oh, he could get it. Even though you might have a boyfriend, it's like saying, let me give you an example. You go to a musical concert. Hypothetically, say you're in a relationship, mm-hmm. and you go to a concert to see a male singer.
Yes.
Okay, and you're there with your boyfriend,
mm-hmm.
and the male singer singing, and he's like your favorite artist, like
Right.
you got like say somebody named like Joe or Bruno Mars, and he's singing, and the girls is getting all
Or
excited.
Maxwell
Oh,
or
Maxwell,
somebody.
yeah,
Yeah, I've been to
or
a Maxwell
Kim.
concert. People lose their minds.
Yeah, so how do
Yes.
you think the man feels and sitting next to his woman while she's screaming for some dude on stage? You see,
Not great.
exactly.
But that's a fantasy.
No, it's not.
It's a fantasy.
That's that break glass in case of emergency. Because if he called your woman out and brought her up on stage while the dude is sitting down and the expensive tickets
And they
he
do
bought,
that.
and took your woman backstage, you see?
Well, a good woman would say, my man's coming with me.
Right. How many good women are there?
You know what? Now you're going to get me in trouble. Wow.
Maxwell picked you up out of the audience and took you backstage.
I wouldn't go.
And your man done spent $400 a piece on some tickets.
I would, if I went,
yeah.
my man would be coming with me.
Yeah.
If I went,
okay.
seriously,
Hey,
if I went, my man would be coming with me.
I take your word for it because you say you're honest. If you're honest, are you honest with yourself?
Oh yeah, sometimes
Okay.
brutally
Now
honest.
you're a
I'm
rare
honest.
breed. Now
He would be coming with me. It's a respect thing because you know what? If it
That's
were
what I was
flipped
looking for.
and it was Beyonce, it was I don't know whoever else that would be on stage and called my man back, he better darn well take me with him.
What if you're not a Beyonce fan?
I don't care. I'm going with them.
Okay. See, you are a very, very rare breed.
Why do you say that?
Because ask your listeners, are they honest with themselves to where they would do that actually? I would like some feedback on that. Ladies, if you're at a concert and
going with me.
and you get called on stage and get called to go
My
backstage.
man has taken me out. He bought the tickets. He's taken me out. We're sitting there, and I'm going to go leave him to go backstage with a fantasy, knowing the reality of it is if that man wanted to do, I wouldn't do it anyway. I don't care who he is. But anyway, but if that man wanted to do something, in my mind, I would still be like, I don't know where he's been, what he's done, who he's been with. And the fact that he thinks just because he's got a voice like silk that he has a right to have access to me and I'm just going to do whatever because he's there and this is his name and he sings. He could not care a bit about me. And I know that. I mean, that's the reality. Now, I realize people get caught up in, maybe I'm a little too logical, but I realize people get caught up in the moment, but no way. No way.
So listeners, please.
Oh, now he's addressing my
Give us
listeners.
some feedback on this, okay? See, these are potential threats that can you negotiate that? Honestly, you're a very different breed, but the common woman and the common man, we're fault by design. So
But you don't have to be. It's a choice.
It's a
that person
threat.
is a fantasy. Why would I mess up my reality for a fantasy? People do that all the time.
you got that Rocky syndrome and want a shot at the title.
You got to learn how to box first.
Exactly.
And then you have to be one of the best in the world. Okay. So you're saying that from a man's perspective, there are some inner parts of men that we as women don't even realize and get. And in the back of your head, there's your get out of jail free card, your break glass in case of emergency kind of person that could be there. So, okay, as a man, should women completely and wholeheartedly open their hearts up to a man that she's deemed worthy, that appears to be worthy? Or should she always hold a little bit back?
No. Open up.
Why?
Because
he might have 5 break glass in case of emergency. I got this one in I have this one in Washington and this one in New York and this one over here and this one in Texas and this one's all the way over in Paris. I mean,
because there's no saying that the woman doesn't have that as well.
Okay, but what if she doesn't?
So if she doesn't, then take a chance. Leap for love. Leap without a net for love.
But then what if she's that woman that leaps for love and then she gets hurt and she becomes that woman scorned?
She has to keep trying because until you hit your mark, you keep shooting. We're in the same boat with this. We're exactly in the same area. We're mostly prone when we're exposed. We got to cover that up. So we're the same way. It's just packaged differently. We're the same way. We take that chance just like you women do with our hearts.
Wow. Okay. And on that note, you're right. And we're also out of time. Boy, these podcasts and conversations go by quickly. I'm not sure how to feel about today. I mean, the conversation that we've had has, I don't know, in some ways it's great insight. In other ways, it's disheartening. Listeners, we want to hear from you. Men, women, we need to hear back from you on this. The break glass in case of emergency, the parts of a man where men have been hurt, and are you less likely to open up, and are you more likely to have that break glass, this person that we may not even know about? I mean, it's a threat that us women, we can't even eliminate, we can't negotiate, let alone eliminate, because we may not even know that person exists. That's a significant disadvantage. If you don't know who the enemy is, how can you fight them?
Or do you have one of your own?
Within yourself.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, thank you so much, JC, for joining this conversation. I'm going to say personally, it's been a tough one. This was tough, but it was good.
It's real talk.
It's real. Hey, that's my line.
Real talk.
That's my line. So, I think we may continue the conversation. I hope that I can convince you maybe to stay in the studio and we can do a few more, or at least another one, because it's a conversation that needs to be continued. But I also want to hear back from the listeners and hear what they have to say so that we can piggyback and riff off of what they say and answer maybe some of their questions. Shoot us your questions, your comments, your thoughts.
Please. Send those feedback, please. We need the feedback. Let me know more feedback. That way she can bring me back if you guys want to hear more of my opinions.
And please, no threats. Don't hurt the man for keeping it real, because the name of the show, as he says, is Sister Talk, Real Talk. All right. Thank you for joining us. I have a lot to think about. It's a lot of information. All right. And until next time, thank you again for taking the time to listen and join the conversation. And I'll talk to you next time. Thank you for listening to Sister Talk Real Talk. I hope that today's show has informed, enlightened, encouraged, or challenged you. We're always on doing this thing called life with you throughout the week. You can catch us on Facebook and on Instagram at Sister Talk Real Talk, and on Twitter at Sister Talk for Real. That's Sister Talk, the number 4, real. Let's continue the conversation throughout the week. You can catch all of our shows on our blog at sistertalkrealtalk.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time. Until then, keep it real.